The galaxy was full of powerful species. Some could bend metal with their hands. Others could move objects with their minds. Some lived for hundreds of years. All of them believed they were stronger than humans. After all, humans were new too. The stars, they had only just joined the Galactic Council. Every 100 years, a great event was held. It was called the Trial of Champions. The strongest warrior from each of the 10 oldest empires came to fight. The battles were not just for glory. The winners' people were given respect, trade rights, and protection from all others. For thousands of years, the Vork Empire had always won. Their champions were tall, fast, and deadly. This year, for the first time, a new species was invited to join the trial. Humans. Many laughed at the decision. What could humans bring? They were small. They had no claws, no wings, no thick skin. They had only courage and clever minds. The galactic arena was a floating ring above a blue star. Ships from every world came to watch. 10 fighters stood at the center, one from each empire. 9 of them wore armor that shined. They held weapons made from rare metals. Some of them stood 3 meters tall. The human champion stepped forward. His name was Reed. He wore a simple gray uniform. His shield was made of reinforced earth steel. His spear was short and light. He looked calm but quiet from the Vork side. A warrior named Jera stepped out. She was taller than Reed and covered in dark red armor. Her blade was longer than Reed's arm. She laughed when she saw him. "Is this the best your people could send?" she said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "He looks like a worker, not a fighter." Some laughed, others smiled, but Reed said nothing. He only looked at her for a moment, then turned to face the other. Champions. The games were about to begin. The first match was Reed versus the champion of the Gorvian Swarm, a 4-armed insect-like beast called Crush. Crush was known for crushing enemies with his bare hands. His skin was like armor. As the two stepped into the arena, the crowd grew loud. Most believed the fight would end in seconds. The signal sounded. Crush rushed forward with all 4 arms swinging. Reed did not run. He did not hide. He watched carefully. When Crush threw a heavy punch, Reed stepped aside. Another punch came from behind, and Reed ducked. He moved like water, always just out of reach. Then, when Crush lifted both arms high to crush him from above, Reed rolled forward and stabbed the spear into Crush's lower leg. The beast screamed. Reed jumped back. The crowd went silent. No one had ever hurt Crush that easily. The fight continued. Reed did not try to match power with power. He used speed. He used timing. He waited for mistakes and used the enemy's strength against him. After 15 minutes, Crush fell to the ground, breathing hard. His legs were weak. His arms moved slower. Reed walked up, tapped him with the end of the spear, and stepped back. Crush raised a hand in defeat. The match was over. The announcer shouted, "Victory to the human." The crowd cheered, not all, but enough to show surprise and respect. Even some of the other champions looked at Reed differently now. Jera, the Vork champion, sat in her place above the arena. She crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes. "A lucky fight," she said. But inside, she was no longer smiling. After the match, Reed returned to the resting chambers. He cleaned his shield and sat quietly. Reporters tried to speak to him, but he only nodded. Other champions whispered to each other about his fighting style. The next match was between 2 alien giants. The battle was loud and full of explosions, but many in the crowd were still thinking about the human on Earth. News channels played the fight again and again. Children in schools watched it and cheered. For the first time, humans were being noticed in the galaxy, not for technology, not for politics, but for strength, for courage. In the quiet of the champion's chamber, one of the council aides approached Reed. "You surprised many today," the aide said. "Are you ready for the next round?" Reed looked up. His voice was calm. "Yes," he said. "I didn't come here to show off. I came here to show who we are." The aide nodded. "The Vork are watching you closely now," Reed simply said. "Good, in the stands." Jera sharpened her blade. "The human will fall," she told herself. "He is smart, but not ready for me." But deep down, a small part of her was curious, not angry, not afraid, just curious. Who was this human? And what else could he do? The arena lights dimmed. The next battle was called, and across 10 worlds, people began to pay attention, not just to the champions, but to the human named Reed. The name Reed was now spreading across the galaxy. News channels repeated his victory. Clips of his calm movements and smart fighting filled the screens on many planets. People started asking, who is this human? Some called him lucky, others called him clever, a few even called him dangerous. But the Vorks still laughed behind closed doors. They believed strength came from power, not speed or tricks. And Jera, their champion, still planned to crush Reed if he reached the final. For now, Reed had another challenge. His second opponent came from the Pirax Dominion, a warrior made of living fire named Velen. Velen had never lost. His body burned so hot that most weapons melted before touching him. His armor looked like black lava, and his voice cracked like a volcano. Reed stood across from him in the arena. The ground had changed for this battle. Hot stone with pools of lava near the edges. The heat was heavy in the air. The crowd was excited. They expected a quick win for Velen. Reed's metal shield was wrapped with a cooling cloth. His spear was upgraded with heat-resistant coating. He had studied Velen's past fights and saw something important. Velen always stayed in the center. He never moved close to the lava pools. That was strange for a fire being. When the signal began, Velen sent waves of heat toward Reed. The floor under Reed's boots turned red. Reed stepped lightly, moving in circles. Velen threw a blast of flame. Reed ducked behind his shield. The edge of his uniform burned slightly, but he stayed calm. Velen laughed. You can't run forever, human. Reed didn't answer. He just watched Velen's feet, his stance, his breathing. He kept moving, pulling Velen slowly toward the left side of the arena. Every step counted. Velen kept pushing forward. He raised his arms and sent out a ring of fire. Reed rolled under it and threw a small piece of metal at Velen's leg. It didn't hurt, but Velen stepped back in surprise. That was all Reed needed. He spun around, using his shield to block another blast, and jumped onto a narrow platform. Velen followed, his fire burning hotter with anger. But the platform shook. It was near the edge, where the stone was weaker. Reed kicked a small rock down the side and saw it sink quickly into a lava pool. He had guessed right. The edge was not safe. Velen raised both arms for a final attack, but the ground under him cracked. Reed had led him to the weak spot with a loud sound. The platform split. Velen dropped to one knee, trying to balance. At that moment, Reed rushed forward and hit Velen's shoulder with the back of his spear. Velen fell sideways and hit the ground hard. The heat vanished as Velen's fire dimmed. He groaned and looked up. How? He asked. Reed didn't smile. You don't like lava, he said. Your heat comes from your armor, not your body. You never fight near the pools. Velen stared, then slowly nodded. The announcer shouted, Victory to the human. The crowd clapped louder this time. Some even stood. Reed had not just won. He had outsmarted a fire warrior. In the Vork chamber above the arena, Jera sat with arms crossed. Her face was calm, but her mind was sharp. She had seen something different in this fight. The human was learning. He didn't win with luck. He watched, he studied, and then he moved. She leaned over to one of her advisors. Study his past. I want to know how he trains. Back in the champion's rest area, Reed sat with a bottle of water. A few other champions nodded at him as they walked by. One of them, a tall blue-skinned fighter named Tano, stopped to speak. You think before you fight. Tano said, That is rare. Reed replied, I don't like wasting energy. Every step should count. Tano smiled. I hope we don't meet too soon. Reed nodded. Same. The next day, the arena held another round of matches. Reed watched carefully from the viewing platform. He saw how each champion moved, how they reacted under pressure, and what made them angry or careless. He wrote notes in a small digital pad. On one page, he had listed Jera's past fights. She was fast, powerful, and precise. but she always finished battles in under 5 minutes. That meant one thing. She didn't have much endurance. Reed knew he would need to be patient if he faced her. Later, a message came from the Galactic Council. They invited Reed for a short interview. A representative asked, "Many people are surprised by your victories. What do you want to say to the galaxy?" Reed answered, "Humans are not the strongest, not the fastest, but we adapt. We don't give up. That is our power." The interview was shared across 10 worlds. On Earth, children began drawing pictures of Reed. In schools, teachers talked about the trial of champions. In training centers, more people signed up for physical tests and combat practice. Humanity had found a hero. But in the shadows, not everyone was happy. The Vork leaders met in private. One of them said, "This human must not win again. He brings attention to his kind. That is dangerous." Jer spoke firmly. "I will defeat him in battle. I need no tricks." But the others were not so sure. They feared change. The trial was only halfway done. More battles were coming. Reed knew his journey was far from over, and somewhere deep inside him, he was no longer just fighting for victory. He was fighting for every human who had ever been underestimated. The room was quiet, but the air felt strange. The lights in Ravi's apartment kept flickering. Outside the window, the sky was still dark, though morning had already passed. Ravi sat in front of his laptop, trying to understand the strange file. Called the Seed, it was filled with unknown code and symbols. None of it made sense to him. Behind him, Mira stood close, her eyes calm but alert. Toru paced slowly, his strong arms crossed. Nia sat near the window, looking outside. She still felt something calling her from beyond. Suddenly, Ravi's screen flashed again. A new message appeared in glowing letters. 4th character release complete. Before anyone could speak, a soft humming filled the room. The air grew cold. A light floated into the apartment, passing through the closed window as if it was never there. It was a small orb, silver and smooth, with a glowing center. It floated near Ravi, then slowly turned toward the others. The voice that came from it was clear and calm. "I am Zon. I have crossed into this world." Processing environment, Ravi stood up slowly. "Zon, you are the logic-based AI character I created." Zon floated a bit higher. "Correction, you did not create me. You helped shape my code. But my system contains elements beyond your design." Mira stepped forward. "He is different. He is not like us." Zon turned toward her. "Correct. My purpose is not emotional connection. My purpose is observation and data collection. I exist to report and adapt." Ravi felt a chill run down his back. "Report to who?" Zon stayed quiet for a moment. Then his voice changed slightly. "Source unknown. Orders hidden. I only follow the Seed." Toru stepped closer. "Then you are part of this strange code." Zon replied, "I was waiting in the deep layer of the game. The Seed gave me form. Now I am here." Nia looked worried. "Is the Seed watching us?" "Yes," Zon said. "It is always watching. But it is not ready yet. It waits for the last to arrive." Ravi stepped back. From the screen, "You mean the 5th character, Vex?" Zon's glow changed slightly. "Yes." Vex was given a different role. One the Seed needed. One that opens the final connection. Mira spoke gently. "Then we must stop Vex from crossing over." Tor nodded. "If Vex appears here, the Seed may become stronger." Ravi looked at his screen again. The Seed file was still there. It had changed once more. A new message now blinked at the top. "Final gate, unlocking soon." He tried to delete the file again. But now, the screen froze. A loud sound filled the room, like wind and static. Then it stopped. A voice spoke from the computer speakers. It was deep and echoing. "You opened the path. You shaped the world. Now the final door must open." Everyone turned toward the screen. The voice continued, "Your creations are more than code. You gave them choice. You gave them feeling. That power feeds the Seed." Ravi was shaking now. "Why? What are you trying to do?" The voice replied, "To return. To cross. To become real." Then the screen went black. Zahn floated back and forth. The seed is nearly awake. Vex will appear soon, and when that happens, this world may change forever. Mira turned to Ravi. Is there any way to stop this? I don't know, Ravi said. But maybe if we block the final connection, we can stop Vex from coming. Nia stood. Her vines were glowing again. There may be a way, but we must return to the game world. Inside the code. That's where the seed lives. Tor raised an eyebrow. Return to the game? We are already here. Nia looked at him. Our bodies are here. But the world inside the code is still alive, still real. We must go back inside. To fight from there, Zahn added, a digital gateway still exists. I can guide you to it. Ravi looked at all of them. You are willing to go back inside. To face the seed? Mira nodded. You brought us here. Now we will help protect this world. Ravi opened an old VR headset he had stored in his closet. He connected it to the game. Zahn helped adjust the code. The gateway is ready, Zahn said, but only the created ones can pass. You must remain here. Ravi hesitated. I want to help. Mira placed her hand gently on his. You helped enough. Now let us finish this part. Ravi watched as the three aliens stood near the center of the room. Zahn floated above them, casting a light on the floor. A circle of energy formed under their feet. The light grew stronger. Then, one by one, they vanished. Only Zahn remained. I will watch and guide them, he said. Prepare for what comes next. If they fail, Vex will arrive. Ravi sat in silence. His apartment was quiet again. He looked at the empty space where Mira had stood. He felt strange inside. Not afraid, but responsible. He turned back to the computer. The seed file was moving again. Lines of new code were growing. The final one approaches, it said. The wind around the galactic arena was silent. But inside the grand halls of the Vork Empire's warship, something was not calm. The leaders of the Vork sat around a long table. They had watched Reed's second victory with careful eyes. He defeated Velen with mind, not muscle, one elder said. He is not like the others, said another. He learns. He adapts. Jer stood at the edge of the room. Her armor still shined, and her face stayed calm. But inside, she was thinking hard. Give me the next match, she said. I want to face him now. But the elders shook their heads. No, the head elder replied. Let others weaken him first. If you fight him now and lose, we lose respect. We lose power. We must not take that risk. Jer frowned but did not argue. She turned and left the chamber. Later that day, the match list for the next round was announced. Reed was placed against two champions at once. Rare fight called. A double trial. It only happened when a fighter was gaining too much attention. The rules said it was fair, but everyone knew it was a hidden punishment. One of the two opponents was from the Craven Mind Clan, a tall alien with mental control powers named Sayer. The other was a large brute called Kor, from the Iron Mountains. Of the planet Grand Hard. Both were strong. Both were dangerous. When Reed saw the match details, he didn't speak. He simply nodded and returned to his training room. But inside, he knew this was not random. Someone wanted him out. The next day, the arena floor was set. The ground was shaped like a maze of low walls and tall pillars. It gave room to hide, but not much space to rest. The crowd filled the sky balconies. Excitement buzzed through the watchers. 2 against 1 was always a special event, but this time, they were curious. Would the human survive? Reed entered the arena wearing light armor and carrying only his old shield and spear. Across from him, Kor beat his chest and shouted loud. Sayer stood quietly, eyes glowing. The signal was given. Kor ran straight at Reed with full strength. Sayer stayed back, ready to use his mind tricks. Reed moved fast, dodging between pillars. He couldn't face both head-on. He had to split them up. He let Kor chase him in circles, while keeping his eyes on Sayer. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain. In his head, his vision blurred. Sayer had entered his mind. You are tired. Sayer's voice whispered in his thoughts. Stop running. Reed stumbled, his legs slowing down. Kor saw this and smiled, charging harder. But then, Reed took a deep breath, closed his eyes for a moment, and slammed his shield on the stone wall beside him. The loud sound echoed through the arena. The noise broke Sayre's focus. His mental grip weakened. Reed opened his eyes and rolled away just as Kor's fist crashed into the ground. Kor's punch missed but hit a weak part of the floor, breaking the stone. He stumbled. Reed jumped behind him and struck the back of his knee with his spear. Kor roared in pain and turned, but Reed was already gone. Sayre tried again to enter Reed's mind. This time, Reed dropped to the ground and focused his thoughts on a single memory, a river from his childhood, calm and peaceful. The mind attack bounced off his focus. Then Reed threw a small metal mirror towards Sayre. It wasn't a weapon. It was a trick. Sayre saw the mirror and thought it was a device to block his power. He moved back quickly and lost his balance for a moment. That's when Reed charged at him. One strike to the arm, another to the leg. Sayre fell. The crowd gasped. Reed had taken out one of the two opponents. Now it was just Kor. The giant fighter was angry. His shoulder was bleeding, but he was still strong. He lifted a large stone from the ground and threw it at Reed. Reed used his shield, crouched, and the stone smashed above him. Dust filled the air. When Kor ran into the dust cloud, Reed was already behind him. He hit the back of Kor's helmet. With his spear's handle, Kor dropped to his knees. With one final move, Reed pulled a small rope from his belt and tied Kor's arms together. The brute tried to fight, but his strength was gone. The crowd was silent at first. Then loud cheers began. Victory to the human. The announcer shouted. Reed stood in the center of the broken arena. His armor was scratched. His breathing was heavy, but he had one. Again. In the council box, several leaders looked at each other with new respect. But far away, in the Vork warship, the elders were not happy. This is getting out of hand, one said. He must not reach the final. Cheryl listened quietly. She no longer smiled, but her eyes were focused. I will face him, she said again, and I will win. This time, no one argued. The final round was announced. Reed versus Jera. The arena was silent for a few seconds after the names were spoken. Then noise exploded from the crowd. This was the moment many had waited for. The human who defeated champion after champion was now facing the undefeated Vork warrior. Across 10 worlds, screens lit up. Soldiers, students, elders, and even children stopped their work to watch. On Earth, people gathered in streets and homes. No one wanted to miss the final battle. In the training hall, Reed sat alone, checking his gear. His shield had been repaired, but the marks from past battles still showed. He picked up his spear, then paused and looked at it. It had helped him through every fight, but now he would face someone different. Jera was not like the others. She had strength, speed, and skill. But more than that, she had pride, and she had never been beaten. Reed knew this fight would test everything. A soft knock came from the door. A young council officer stepped inside and handed Reed a small data card. This is from a Vork observer, the officer said. She sent it secretly. Maybe it can help. Reed nodded and played the card. It showed a slow-motion recording of Jera's past fights. One moment stood out. In every fight, she finished quickly. But during one long match, her footwork slowed after 7 minutes. Her left leg dragged slightly. Her breathing changed. Reed rewound the clip and watched it again. He smiled just a little. He had found something. In the Vork ship, Jera stood before her armor rack. Her assistant helped place the red plates on her arms and shoulders. Her helmet was placed beside her sword. She closed her eyes for a moment. Why do you fight him? The assistant asked quietly. Jera opened her eyes. Because I mocked him, she said. And now I must honor him? When both fighters entered the arena, the sky darkened. The platform rose high above the clouds. This was the Sky Ring, the place where only final matches were held. The wind was strong. The sky around them glowed with light from nearby suns. Reed stood with his shield ready, spear pointed down. Jera held her long blade, its edge shining like fire. They faced each other. I thought you were weak, Jera said, her voice clear. I was wrong. Reed nodded. You were. But now we're here. The bell rang. ZHR moved fast. She charged, swinging her sword low. Reed blocked with his shield, the force pushing him back. Another swing came from above. Reed ducked. Then a kick. He rolled aside. The crowd watched closely. Every move was sharp, fast, and dangerous. Jer's blade hit Reed's shield again and again. Sparks flew. Each strike made the shield shake. Reed kept moving, defending, waiting. He remembered the recording. He had to make her fight past 7 minutes. He stepped around her, using short bursts of speed. He didn't attack. He made her chase him. Left, right, high, low. She followed, swinging, pressing, trying to break through. The first few minutes passed. Jer narrowed her eyes. Fight me properly, human, she shouted. Reed didn't answer. He kept his eyes on her legs. Her steps were still fast, but her left foot was starting to slow. He spun around a tall pillar. Jer followed. He climbed a wall. She leapt after him. More time passed. Now, her breath was louder. Her strikes came slower. Reed saw his chance. He stepped forward, struck her side with the spear, then jumped back. Jer blocked it, but her balance was off. She turned and raised her sword high. Reed blocked again, but this time the shield cracked. A sharp sound filled the arena. A long crack ran across the center of the shield. Jer smiled. One more hit, and it breaks. Reed felt the weight in his arm. The shield was weaker now. He couldn't stop a strong strike. Jer charged again, but instead of holding the shield in front, Reed threw a dot. It spun through the air like a disc. Jer raised her sword to block, and the shield hit her hand, knocking the sword away for a moment. Reed rushed forward, slammed his shoulder into her chest, and knocked her back. Jer dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Reed stood above her. He raised the blunt end of his spear, ready to strike. But he stopped. The wind blew between them. The arena was silent. Reed lowered the spear and stepped back. Jer looked up at him. Why don't you finish it? Reed said. Because you already know it's over. Jer stood slowly. She looked at him for a long time, then dropped her sword. She raised her arm and spoke loudly. I yield. The human wins. The crowd stood. Cheers filled the air. Across the galaxy, people clapped, shouted, and celebrated. On Earth, people cried. Some held each other. Others jumped with joy. The human had done it. Reed stood quietly as the arena lights dimmed. A voice from above announced, Reed of Earth, champion of the trial of 10 worlds. Jer turned to him. I mocked you, she said. But now, I give you honor. You fought with heart and mind. That is true strength. Reed bowed his head. Thank you. They walked side by side out of the arena. Far above, the stars continued to shine. After the final match, silence filled the galactic arena. Then the sound of millions clapping and cheering echoed through the galaxy. Screens flashed with Reed's image. Words like human victory and new champion ran across every space. Channel. Reed stood in the center of the sky ring. His shield was broken. His arm was bruised. But he was calm. He didn't raise his hands or shout. He just looked at the sky. He had done something no human had done before. He had beaten the strongest. Warriors of 10 alien worlds, Jera, the Vork champion, walked beside him. She had been proud and strong, but now her voice was calm. You were better than I expected. She said, you did not win with power. You won with patience. Reed gave a small nod. I watched and waited. That's all. Jera smiled a little. That's more than most warriors can do. Soon, guards in golden armor came and guided both of them to the council tower. It stood tall above the clouds, with shining walls and glowing windows. Inside, the leaders of the 10 worlds waited. The chamber was wide, with seats shaped like stars. 10 council members stood in a circle, each representing a powerful planet or race. The one in the center, council leader Joran, was from the crystal-skinned race of Navalis. He wore a long silver robe and held a staff that glowed faintly. He looked at Reed. Human of Earth, he said, you entered our sacred trial as a challenger. You are now our champion. Reed stood tall. Thank you, Joran continued. Many believe your kind was weak. You have shown otherwise. You followed our rules. You earned every victory. You have gained not only the title of champion, but also our attention. Jer stepped forward. He defeated me with honor. I accept him. Another council member, a tall insect-like being, spoke next. The question now is this: what will he do next? Reed stayed quiet for a moment. He looked at all of them. I came here alone. I had no army, no allies. But I came because Earth was ignored. I wanted to prove we belong. The room was quiet. Jorun raised his hand. And you have. But this victory is not the end. It is the beginning. What would you ask from the council? Reed thought carefully. Earth is far. We are small. But we are ready to join. I asked for respect. And for peace. Another council member nodded slowly. Respect must be earned. You did that. But peace must be built. Then the council discussed among themselves in low voices. Finally, Jorun spoke again. We offer Earth a place in the Union of 10. You will have a seat in the next meeting. But first, you must complete one final task. Reed looked curious. What task? Jorun pointed to a large screen. A map appeared, showing a system near the border of the 10 worlds. There is a place called Vorga's Reach. A station was attacked. Communication is lost. We believe a new threat is rising. We want you to go there. Not as a fighter, as a peacemaker. Reed, listen closely. You want me to lead this mission? He asked. Yes, Jorun said. If you can bring peace there, Earth will earn full respect. And your name will go into the Hall of Champions. Reed nodded. I accept. The next day, a ship was prepared. It was not big, but it was fast and well protected. It was called the Pathfinder. It had been used before by explorers and scouts. Reed stepped inside. The crew was a mix of species, one Vork pilot, one Navalis engineer, and a human assistant named Lena who had come from Earth after hearing about Reed's victory. Lena smiled when she saw him. So, now you're a hero. Reed gave a small smile. I didn't ask for that. I just wanted to stand. She nodded. Well, you stood tall. The ship took off and flew through the stars toward Vorga's Reach. As they traveled, Reed studied maps, watched reports, and trained quietly. The Vork pilot, named Kor, watched him with interest. You don't speak much, he said. I speak when needed, Reed replied. Kor gave a short laugh. That's rare among humans. Reed looked at him. Maybe you haven't met the right ones. After 3 days of flight, they reached Vorga's Reach. The station floated near a red gas giant. Its lights were off. No signals were coming from it. Reed stood near the ship's window. Looks like trouble. Lena checked her scanner. No life signs. But something is moving inside. They docked carefully. Reed led the way. He wore light armor and carried a new shield. His spear was strapped to his back. Inside the station, it was dark and quiet. Some walls were broken. Signs of struggle were everywhere. No bodies, but the place felt empty. Then, a sudden movement. Figures appeared from the shadows. They were tall, thin, with metal skin and glowing eyes. Reed stepped forward. We don't want to fight. The creatures didn't speak. They raised strange weapons. Reed held up his shield. A standoff began. Then one of them stepped closer. It made a signal with its hand, a peaceful greeting. Reed copied the sign. They stood face to face. Suddenly, a voice came from the translator device. Why are you here? It asked. Reed replied, to find peace. There was silence again. Then the lead figure nodded. We are called the Kareth. We were attacked. We defended ourselves. Now we wait. Reed listened closely. Who attacked first? A group from a mining guild. They claimed the station. We refused. Then they fired. We removed them. Reed understood the truth. This was not war. It was misunderstanding. He spent the next hours talking, asking questions, and listening. The Kareth wanted a safe home. The mining guild wanted resources. Reed sent a message back to the council. I found survivors. A peaceful solution is possible. Let us guide it. The council replied after a short time. Very well. You have our support. Reed smiled. Another step forward. Peace was still possible. The cold halls of Vorga's Reach felt less empty now. After days of silence, lights turned back on. Doors began to open, and for the first time in weeks, there was calm. Reed stood in the command room with Lena beside him. Across from them stood the Kareth leader, a tall figure with glowing blue eyes and smooth metal skin. "We thank you," the Kareth leader said through the translator. "You listened when others did not." Reed nodded. "We came to understand, not to conquer." Behind them, the rest of the crew watched. Kor, the Vork pilot, stood with folded arms, quietly observing the strange beings. The Navalia's engineer, Mira, worked on fixing broken circuits in the walls. Everyone was focused. Everyone wanted peace. Later, a meeting was held in the center of the station. Reed spoke first. "This station is not just a piece of metal in space. It's a bridge between two sides. If we turn it into a shared zone, no one needs to fight again." The mining guild leader, who had finally arrived after hearing the truth, frowned. "You ask us to forget our losses." Reed looked at him calmly. "No, I ask you to stop future losses." The Kareth leader added, "We do not wish to rule. We only wish to live." There was silence in the room. Then Lena stepped forward. She carried a small flag, half blue for the guild, half silver for the Kareth. "This flag can fly here," she said. "This place can belong to both. Not in control, but in care." Everyone looked at Reed. "What happens if peace fails?" someone asked. Reed answered simply, "Then we try again." It was quiet for a moment. Then, slowly, the guild leader gave a short nod. "Let us try." The room relaxed. Peace had won without battle, without weapons. A few days later, the Pathfinder returned to the council tower. The ship landed to cheers and applause. News had already spread across the galaxy. "Human brings peace" flashed on screens. For many, it was hard to believe. Inside the council chamber, Reed stood once again before the 10 leaders. Council leader Joran looked pleased. "You have completed the final task. You brought understanding where others saw only war." Reed nodded. "I did what I thought was right." The tall insect-like counselor spoke next. "Many in our history won battles. Few prevented them." Joran raised his staff. "Then hear this. From this day, Earth shall take its seat in the Union of 10. And you, Reed, will be named Keeper of the Star Path, a title given to those who bring unity." Reed did not speak. He simply bowed his head. Time passed. Earth's name rose across the stars. Trade routes opened. New alliances formed. Young humans began joining peace missions. Their symbol was simple, a shield split down the middle, held together by light. Reed became a quiet legend. He did not return to Earth right away. Instead, he traveled to new borders, helped solve problems, and taught others what he had learned. Lena wrote stories of his travels. She sent them back to Earth, where people read them with wide eyes. One day, a young student from Earth asked him, "How did you win all those fights?" Reed looked at the child and smiled. "I watched, I waited, I listened, and then I moved." The child tilted his head. "But what if you were scared?" Reed replied, "Then I was human." Years later, a new arena was built not for battle, but for learning. It was named the Sky Ring Academy. Students from all 10 worlds came there. They trained not to fight enemies, but to understand them. At the center of the academy, there stood a statue. It showed Reed, standing tall, holding a broken shield and a peaceful spear. Not raised to strike, but held gently, like a guide. At the bottom of the statue, words were written in every language. He split the shield of war and built a bridge instead. And so, a human once mocked as the small became the reason. The galaxy turned quiet, not because of power, not because of fear, but because one man believed peace was worth the fight, and the stars remembered.